Are Games Workshop models too expensive?
GW is getting a bit out of hand with the price increases. And
is Warhammer 40,000 too expensive?
When is this too much?
GW more expensive?
Warhammer's got a reputation for being expensive.
Too expensive. Too expensive.
Horribly expensive.
Yes, you don't have to look far to find commentary on whether or not Warhammer is too expensive. Every Games Workshop price adjustment brings the content creators to the surface like worms in the rain. I'm not here to add to the deluge of opinion that already threatens to flood our homes. Instead, I'm going to take a more scientific approach. So I gave 4 Wargamers of different skill levels £100 each. With it, they had to buy a 1,000 points tournament legal army. Or they'd have to buy the materials to make it tournament legal with their £100. They were then to meet me in Hertfordshire, where they'd be put through a series of challenges. John was the first to arrive, having come down from Glasgow. As he luxuriated in the garden, Chris joined us. Given the money I had on the line, I was hoping that John was going to paint better than he barbecued.
I've never seen someone fight their dinner so hard.
The other 2 gamers were delayed, so now was the time to examine what these guys had bought. John had gone with Tau, picking up a job lot and a piranha from eBay.
Some of them are fine.
This one is emphatically not fine.
Yeah, I think there's another one like that. I'm trying to find that the horrific areas. This thing.
What? Oh my god, it's the paste resistance.
I spent 16 quid on that. Oh god. So I got the money and I was like, and I went straight online and I
My god.
20% of my budget on that.
20%?
And that's why I had to.
What a disaster.
So that was John's mess of a Tau job lot. But he had come equipped with a secret weapon. He had 3D printed a bunch of weapon effects. He hoped they would distract from the shoddy quality of the purchases. Then it was time to examine Chris's effort, and he'd brought an army of Space Marine Dark Angels.
So this is the lot that your seller said he would dust for you, basically.
Yeah, he said that there would be no dust. That was clearly a lie.
I've never seen miniatures so baked in detritus, and I live with a cat and a dog. To Chris's benefit, he'd bought the whole lot well under budget, including a dreadnought which he sold on to get some money back for materials. John had strong opinions on the previous owner's basing technique.
Oh, I hate that so much.
It was painted save for a squad of Deathwing Terminators. Chris had hopes of improving on the rest of them, but he'd need to start by cleaning off the dust.
Hard to tell, isn't it?
Oh no! That is dead.
Before promptly switching up his approach. Meanwhile, John was complaining that his battle suits had come supplied with the wrong size bases. But he was in luck. There was a tuck shop system this weekend where players could spend their points to buy things they don't have from My Supplies. This is to punish them for going over budget, but to enable them to complete their projects anyway.
But if I have it, you can buy it from Tuck Shop. Okay. So you want 5, 6 50mm bases.
Yeah.
I will see if I've got them, and then I'll give you a
Otherwise I need to
price.
do my horrifically 3D printed ones that are like warped and disgusting.
They're awful.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that is shocking.
Yeah, it really is.
It's still sticky. Look at this.
Might have not cured them properly.
Finally, John and Chris got stuck in, whilst I went to try and find John his bases.
If it was like rough stuff, then you can put it down a bit.
Right.
Now, because Chris had done so well financially, he'd managed to send me a package of bases for him to rebase all his Space Marines with, which I had then promptly lost. So, Chris got first dibs, of course, in the bases I had managed to find, which meant John was left trying to barter for them, particularly because he didn't want to spend his points.
250s.
Don't push your luck.
250s or 60.
Nah.
What?
3, 4, 5,
Remember,
6,
there's
8,
more
9,
surface
10,
area on that.
13.
Do your maths, pi r squared.
For everything, there's some of them actually do have 13
Well, look, there's 36. If you need any more, you give me a shout. I try to keep my customers happy, you know? That's what I try and do. I want everyone to leave the Tuck Shop with a smile on their face.
Why, it's shit. I'm joking.
Oh no, they've all been...
That wasn't the only thing that would cause consternation for John.
And we're here just knocking
What paint
was
stripper have you got?
Sorry?
What paint stripper have you got?
How many times?
Don't have paint. What the f*** am I supposed to do this?
Why did we had this, Chris, did we not have this conversation?
No!
Yes, we did! Literally this morning, because you were like, oh, we'll go to Tesco and see what they've got. We had this exact conversation about the fact we don't have paint stripper. So don't pin
Oh,
this
that's
on
why I
me.
went to Tesco.
Yeah, we did, and you ended up buying shorts.
I just bought a pair of shorts. Ah! I need help!
Do you have bleach under
Do
your
need
sink?
help. I've got a bit of bleach if you want to
For me
bleach
to
it.
drink.
Before that could escalate, our other two contestants, Hayden and Graham, finally arrived. Graham was next to reveal his Deathwatch army.
Okay.
Alright, it's the big reveal. The big reveal. It's very exciting.
So I assume this is a rhino.
That was the rhino?
Yeah.
So, one thing I'm noticing, Graham, is there's not a lick of paint on any of these miniatures.
No. Well, firstly, I thought it was meant to be a
Painting for that.
No one ever said that.
Really? That's exactly what you said. Like, well, 7 months, like 5 months.
No, we didn't.
Careful the dead. Look, nothing of mine's painted.
That's because one, it is painted too. That's because you're an idiot too. He's bought his fully painted. He's bought his painted because it was about just finding an army and glowing it up. You didn't have to buy them painted. Why do people keep imagining that I'm the villain here and that I've given you all these ghoulish casks and then gone entirely back?
wonder why.
I'm going to abuse my powers as the man editing this video to point out two things here. First, the audacity of John claiming that his army is unpainted when we've already established that he brought this masterpiece with him. Second, this is the brief that I sent to them in February.
I've gathered a group of players and I'm going to give them each £100 to buy a 40k army. They can do whatever they want. They can buy off the shelf if they think they can make that work, or they can go to eBay or the trade groups. Whatever they think they can do to get a 1,000 point army at only £100. The only limitation is there's going to be a 15 model minimum.
As long as I can sort of half-ass it and just sort of do the absolute bare minimum.
Oh, great, yeah.
So Graham certainly has his work cut out for him. An entirely unpainted Deathwatch army. He has a rhino, a Nuon Sprue Lieutenant, which came with this helpful instruction manual.
These are the instructions that came with it. So,
He then just has a bunch of assault intercessors and tactical marines. Having dealt with Graham, we moved on to Hayden's fine catch. It started with some classic miniatures.
The old, yeah, 3rd edition Space Marines, like every single one of them like that. Old Scouts, which were when they threw
No,
on.
that was 4th edition. It was the Battle on the Crag that brought them in.
not this as well.
I swear I had these in 3rd, but
Nah.
alright.
I do enjoy being able to constantly prove John wrong after the fact, although I was also wrong here. They're from the 2nd edition box set, not Battle from a Crag, and not the 3rd edition. In fact, Hayden's job lot was full of surprises, including for some reason a Tyrannid, a Chaos Terminator arm, and even a snack.
From Melter, do they still have
It
those?
looks like
Some sort of...
With an axe on the front? Is it Chaos?
Might be a Chaos one.
Hayden's job lot came with a crisp.
Ali took for points.
Right.
What's going on here? Why is it got a stick going out the side? What the fuck? This is my money.
Look, I'm not responsible for what other people have done.
You bought it. They've obviously. Oh, it's one of the old sticker banners. That is classic.
Hayden's lot also included these Ultramarines Terminators and a Gravis Captain.
I think I paid a lot for that. Like, I don't think it's very good.
Well, I mean, his sword snapped off, so that's not ideal.
He got a whole bunch of the old-style Space Marine bikes, some intercessors like this sergeant who I expect was pointing before his finger snapped off, this, which was either a Tech Marine or an Apothecary, the classic old Asmodai who's missing his banner from his backpack, classic Azrael who's missing his left forearm and weapon, more tactical marines with mystery rods.
A round of applause for this inanimate carbon rod.
Old metal scouts, which were alright, and tactical marines, which weren't.
It looks like something's thrown up on it. It's just got like cat hair, like just baked into it. It actually looks like someone dropped it in their porridge like 20 years ago and they just never cleaned it off properly.
With all the items opened and examined and the air now thick with bickering and my palpable disappointment, we went into the first round of scoring. The round was called Points v Pounds, testing the player's ability to get to a 1,000 point list with their £100 budget. Players would gain a point for every pound under 100 they spent on their materials and models. They would then lose one for every 10 points under 1,000 their list turned out to be.
Hayden, let's start with you. How much money did you spend?
I believe it was around 97.
97, that's fine. £97, which means you get 3 points for being £3 under. How many points is your army?
1,000.
Oh, bang on. Which means you lose no points for being under 1,000 points. What is that squeaking? It's horrifying. So you are on 3 points. Graham, how much did you spend on your army?
Including pets.
Everything.
Everything. The British £100.
£100. So you've got no points for being under budget. How many points is your army?
Slightly under.
Yep.
It is 500. So it's gone down.
570 points.
Yep.
In a 1,000 points.
Yep.
Slightly mortified by that disadvantage, we gave Graham the opportunity to try and scrape some points together with enhancements and moved on to John.
We'll come back to you once you try to scrape some more points together. John, how much did you spend?
About £98.
£98, so you're on +2, not bad. And how many points do you have?
Well, I've got 980.
Alright, okay, so you're on 0 points. You're actually on -3 because you spent 3 on bases.
Yeah.
Chris, how much did you spend?
1 second. £88.47, but then I recouped £20.01p.
So you spent £88.
£88.47, yeah.
47, okay. And then you sold your dreadnought.
Yeah, because I didn't need it.
So how much did you sell it for?
£20.01p.
So 31 points. 31 points you've saved. You've got from your save. How many points is your army?
995.
Oh, so not even a full 10 points under means you stay on 31 points. That is insanity. Graham, did you figure out your enhancements?
Yeah, I've given my lieutenant an enhancement.
How much did that cost?
30 points, so I'm up to 600.
Yes, okay. So, and you spent 100.
Yeah.
So you're on -40 points.
Yeah.
All right.
So round 1 over, Chris is ahead on 31 points, Hayden on 3, John on -3, and Graham on -40. Now the guys have got 24 hours to give their miniatures a glow up before the next series of challenges. They can spend points in Tuck Shop to purchase hobby materials they couldn't buy with their £100. So began a flurry of activity. Everyone had some rebasing to do to get their armies tournament legal. Rather than bother with all that laborious pulling and clipping, Graham had a more straightforward solution.
Are there any rules against still doing this? Just gluing the base onto the
Graham had finished building and spraying his lieutenant, and he'd begun dry brushing the black armour. And Chris had begun painting his only unpainted unit, his Terminators. John was still trying to re-engineer some of his shoddy merchandise.
Quite an intense moment, John.
You're a braver man than me.
Even that was more productive than Hayden, although that was mainly because I kept on hassling him about all the many marvels in his job lot.
What is happening here? What is happening here?
What do you mean?
What is this? It looks,
I don't know.
Speaking of a lack of productivity, John had started spraying, but it wasn't going to plan.
Just painting these, and I realised all the backpacks are on upside down.
Oh.
So whoever built these has put the backpacks on upside down.
Oh.
And that is driving me absolutely insane.
Oh no.
If I rip them off
You'll never
now-
be able to tell.
Well, I can tell, and I know that they're upside down.
The worst thing is, he just looked so sad afterwards. And then he decided to leave his problems behind with a big sleep. He was soon back at it and ploughing on with the building while Graham simply chonked his way through that black armour. I don't think I've ever seen anyone with such a bout of hobby motivation.
So you're doing good.
Thank you. It's just trying to do it as quickly as possible so that I can go to bed at a reasonable hour.
Whatever motivation works, I guess. Graham had ploughed through the silver arms and was now doing the red, all with the most haggard brush I've ever seen. John, meanwhile, was back on the sofa and starting to suspect that he'd spent too long in the sun. Hayden, meanwhile, was soaring again, having realised his Terminators weren't provided with enough arms.
Like, his arm's there, but there's a random
chunk of gun there.
Chunk of something else there, isn't there?
Also, if you listen very carefully, you can hear John waking up in the background.
Chunk of gun there.
Chunk of something else there, isn't there?
Still, at least that meant he was conscious and back at it, and gluing in place his secret weapon 3D prints. He was also working on his brand new in-box Tau Commander, and working on something more illicit.
Come see. I've kind of I cheated a little bit, and I may have brought in two test warriors. Don't tell Alex.
Scum, that's all I can say. Cheating scum. Still, he got his army sprayed up and then...
I'm gonna have a break, I think.
It's annoying because I really wanted to chastise him, but he was genuinely unwell. And I felt a bit bad that he'd flown from Glasgow to sit on my sofa. Chris had finished the base colour on his Terminators and was doing a recess wash. Hayden continued his conversions work by completing the missing banner from his Dark Angels Ancient with the paper Ultramarines one from his Tactical Marine Sergeant. Graham continued to use the world's most haggard brush to paint flesh. Chris moved on to dry brushing a highlight on his Terminators. I delivered John a bunch of paints from Tuck Shop. Graham base coated his banner. Chris was doing the red on his Terminators. John was awake and washing his towel with Apothecary Grey. Poor Hayden had to spend a stupid amount of time trying to get his haggard Metal Chaos Terminator arm to fit. As the sun set, he was finally getting ready to spray paint. Graham, continuing to stonk ahead, was giving his minis a wash with Agrax. John's minis were washed and needed some drying time. Chris was on to detailing work, this time the ropes on his Terminators. Graham was done with his painting and had bought a load of basing materials from Tuck Shop to do his janky 2-tier bases. He even applied his watered-down PVA sealant like a consummate professional. He then decided deservedly that he was done for the evening, as was John, although potentially less deservedly. Chris and Hayden, however, would not be so easily defeated, even when John convinced us to put on Moonfall, promising it was one of the worst things we'd ever see, which it was. Chris continued. As we were setting up the beds, Chris continued. At midnight, he was washing with Agrax.
That'll be 5 models painted today.
5 is pretty good.
Thank you guys.
29.
Past midnight. Everyone's chilling. Soldiers on. He eventually gave in after a respectable bout and went to bed. Given they'd started only about midday the day before, they still had a bit of time to finish out their 24-hour stint. John was saying that he felt better.
Feel British, mate.
But he was so far behind, and he decided that perhaps, rather than focusing on cracking on, he'd go on the attack.
Come here, cat. Come here, cat. Aww.
Yep, he backed the wrong horse on this one. The cat hates human food. The dog would have been right in. He's just going to have to do this the old-fashioned way. So whilst airbeds and spirits were being deflated, everyone prepared for their final push. This was the time to show that hobbying is serious business. Whilst Graham was certainly ahead, he'd allowed his sealant glue to drip down the sides of the bases and onto the cardboard the night before, so he had a job peeling his miniatures back off it.
Oh, hey, here we go.
He then basically bought up all the available tufts from the Tuck Shop and set about applying them. John's situation was more dire, as he desperately tried to pick out details with his base colours. Graham was moving on to his final flourishes, highlighting his banner with his haggard little brush that he refused to replace. Chris was spot highlighting his Terminators but had failed to do anything yet with the rest of his miniatures. The bulk of his army. As John used contrast paints to glow up his shields, Graham was on his very last highlight. Hayden still had his 5 Terminators to paint. There was so much for everyone except Graham left to do. I was still stuck in the past, admiring Hayden's Space Marine Ancient conversion.
The proportion of pole to flag size is absurd.
He made me leave him alone so he could apply some paint to his miniatures. John, meanwhile, was finally at the stage of applying his ink wash magic to his Tau, and then it was just a matter of cleaning it off again. He only started this in the final 30 minutes. The clock was ticking.
I'm really annoyed I was not this productive yesterday because I would be finished by now, but unfortunately I gave myself second-degree burns on a barbecue and absolutely cooked myself. So a lesson learned: don't cook yourself before doing a big challenge like this.
At exactly 11:37 and around 36 seconds, time was called. The challenge was over. We had to clear up, ready for the next one. The next test is as inevitable as it is important. The armies are assembled, and it was time to test their mettle on the tabletop. First though, my craft-world Eldar would play an army of orcs in order to set a bar. This is a seasoned, not uncompetitive force that should post a fair score. So I will play an army of orcs that Chris brought, and then the guys will play each other, and they will lose a point for every point below the bar they score, and gain a point for every point above the bar they score. The Eldar are led by an autarch Wayleaper. She has fusion pistol, Mandy blasters, and a sword of some description. There's 5 fire dragons who, together with the 5 dire avengers, will ride inside the wave serpent with bright lances. There are 6 wind rider jet bikes, all with shuriken cannons. There's a fast-moving plus-size skimmer tank with the big gun, the Lynx. There's then the psychic wraith bomber, and a unit of 5 swooping hawks. Chris's army included a squad of 10 orc boys and his bionic Squiggoth. This had 10 commandos, a knob, and a pain boy in it. He had a battle wagon with a war boss and mega knobs, another squad of 10 boys, and a truck with more orcish nonsense. But before we continue, seasoned viewers amongst you will know that my miniatures are assigned to my Patreons, so we know who's lucky, who's unlucky, and reward great deeds. It's a bit like a raffle, with higher tier patrons being more likely to be assigned each unit. Patrons, check this picture for today's assignments. The 2 best players will each win one of these Bring Back the Soup meta soup flasks, which I think is pretty good. Not great, but pretty good. The orcs lurched forwards, with the truck taking up residence on the objective at the centre of the board. The Squiggly moved up to join the fray, and I was frankly already feeling quite intimidated. Chris's orc shooting did what orc shooting does best, which is to say, almost nothing.
That is all my shooting, so my turn. No combat, it's your turn.
My fire dragons jumped out of the wave serpent to tackle the oncoming battle wagon, but the battle wagon overwatched them with dramatic consequences. Okay. Thank God for 3+ armor saves.
Oh! He's not finished yet, obviously.
Nope.
So
This isn't like you at all.
I know.
I agreed to play you because I thought your dice rolls were crap.
Jet bikes hopped up to get a nice field of fire from atop this building here, and the Dire Avengers hopped out to hold the objective in my deployment zone. From their vantage point, the bikes unleashed hell on the orcs who had dismounted from the Squiggly Wiggly.
I saved 1, so 6 are dead.
That was about it though from Eldar shooting. Neither side were really doing the business. Even my beloved Lynx, in which I'd put so much faith.
4 shots, hit on 3s. All hits. My strength is 16. So 3s. Oh no! Triple 2 and a 1. Oh dearie me.
Oh damn.
Even the fire dragons let me down, doing only 4 wounds to the battle wagon. I also stupidly spent the command point I'd earmarked for fire and fade, which would have got them out of trouble. And trouble they were in.
Hey.
The Squiggy boy decided to put pressure on the Lynx to stop it getting another chance.
Oh god, and here it comes!
The orc shooting phase was again a bit of a disappointment, but of course that's never where the flavour is. Taking no wagers on who won this combat, it was the orcs, by the way, meaning the dragon's target was able to roll free and cause havoc elsewhere. On the other side of the ruins, the boys had accosted my dire avengers. It seems only the bikes were truly safe. In the late game, the tables did turn a bit for me. My jet arrived, my bikes performed admirably defending this back objective, and my lynx flew straight up to the squiggly wigglo orcish gigolo, jammed its gun straight down its throat, and blew it to smithereens.
Oh, he's done. He is done. Well, you did 3 wounds, you got 3 wounds left, so yeah.
I did 6 wounds.
He's got 3 wounds left.
He's got 3 wounds left.
Sad, but he didn't suffer, be assured.
Alright, that's some VPs.
Bye-bye, sweetie.
As a last hurrah, we managed to really whittle down this group of orcs in the bottom corner.
Is it all 2s?
No, there were some 1s in there.
I'm so sorry.
However, as the orcs raged rampant elsewhere, I had to commit my hawks, my autarch, and my bikes just to try and kill this bloody pain boy and knob. Chris won 39 to 25, which kind of ruined this whole Eldar setting the bar thing, so I pulled the old cheeky reversal.
Chris wins. Well done, Chris. Right, I have an announcement to make. Chris has set the bar.
So Chris's 39 is the bar to meet. My patrons let me down, but I'm contractually obliged to give away the 2 flasks anyway. My MVPs are Jonathan DiPietro's jet bikes for actually taking on orcs in combat and not dying immediately, and Gargoyle's Lynx for executing Squiggy gangland style. Time for the next game, and given John had been unwell, we'd given him a bit of extra time to get his miniatures ready. So next it would be Hayden v Graham. Hayden had Azrael and Asmodai, as well as his Space Marine Ancient, his Gravis Armoured Captain, 5 Scouts and 5 Intercessors, 5 incredibly old school Terminators, and about 30 Tactical Marines. Graham had his Lieutenant, who along with a squad of Assault Intercessors was riding in a Rhino. He had 20 Deathwatch Veterans, and that was it. Graham started boldly, moving his Rhino straight into the centre and disembarking.
Let's move the tank out and let's just disembark. Okay, and I think that's my entire movement. Shooting.
Graham's entire shooting phase did a single wound to that Marine at the back there. In Hayden's second turn, his Terminators showed up right behind the Deathwatch lines. They were eyeing up the Rhino, which was still holding up a rear objective. It also forced Graham to think about whether he'd ignore them or come back to try and deal with them.
Right, well, I think that's it. I'm going to stay here and try and shoot you.
Oh, come on.
And try he did. He focused his entire army on the Assault Intercessors at the centre of the board, but his luck was shoddy at best.
Oh my god, so many ones.
Oh my god.
God.
Oh no.
2 hits.
Oh, okay.
2 hits.
About 3.
So yeah, 4s.
Oh god.
That was painful.
By the end of that phase, he'd only killed 3. Hopefully he'd be able to do more damage in combat. His Terminators charged the Rhino. But then came the big one. Hayden needed his block of infantry in the middle there to charge the Assault Intercessors and force them off that central objective. No luck there then. Hayden had more luck on the flank where his Intercessors charged the Deathwatch Veterans. However, the Terminators only chipped a paltry 2 wounds off the Rhino. In Graham's turn, he did what Hayden could not. He charged the Dark Angel's blob with his Assault Intercessors. Azrael heroically intervened. However, even he couldn't make any damage stick. In the chaotic melee that followed, almost nothing died. To make matters worse, the Deathwatch Veterans finished wiping out the Dark Angel's Intercessors, securing Hayden another objective. It turned out to be a Graham victory 25 to 20, starting the game 300 points down. It shows you just how bad Hayden's dice rolling was. After Graham's victory, it was finally time for John to put down the paintbrush and take to the battlefield against Chris's Dark Angels. John's army included his suspect Crisis battlesuit and his now famous Piranha, his commander and a trio of broadside battlesuits, his Fire Warrior team led by a Fireblade and including the 2 warriors he snuck in. He then had his 5 stealth suits and shamefully unpainted Devilfish hiding just out of frame. Chris had his captain with Power Fist and Plasma Pistol, and a lieutenant with Power Fist and Bolt Pistol. He had 5 Deathwing Terminators, 1 with an assault cannon, 5 Devastators, 4 with plasma cannons, 5 Devastators with 2 las cannons, a multi-melter and heavy bolter, and 3 units of tactical marines. As we got cracking, John was still fixated on his Piranha.
Yeah, well, I had the job lot, so I was like, I'm doing Tau, and I was like, right, I'm going to just like panic and just was so excited. And I went on and I was like, oh, that's 20 quid, and I bought it and it came, and I was like, wait a minute, that's 20% of my budget on this piece of shit.
They did eventually get moving, with Chris being the attacker he deployed first, and the guys set up in opposite table quarters. It ended up just being sort of a clump of Dark Angels, and it was clearly going to be a bit of a shooting gallery in both directions. The Tau took first turn, and as expected, it was utterly brutal, wiping out this tactical squad to a man, and they still had reinforcements yet to come. Chris's tactical marines on the far side of the board had also taken a pummeling, the unpainted devilfish making an unearned appearance. As a final insult, John used a command point to hop out of sight of Chris's plasma cannon devastators.
And I think that's me, finally, I'm afraid.
Chris wanted Rwenge, and he started by obliterating John's Piranha. After the effort he'd put into giving it a painting glow-up, he was pretty upset about it.
It's always the best painted model, the best
I know,
thing that...
shiny model syndrome, yeah.
He then tried pouring his plasma cannons at the Fire Warriors, who had also caused problems last turn.
Hitting on 4s.
One. Oh, that's spicy.
And then winning on a 3 with your Guardian drone. That's a 2.
Oh my god.
That's a bit brutal.
That is disgusting.
Eventually, some bolter shots landed and killed 5 of the blue-faced arseholes.
Like what? Oh my god. Jesus.
So both sides were suffering damage, but they were concerned about how they were actually going to meet the benchmark set by the orcs.
I don't know how we're going to beat 39 VPs though.
Yeah, that was...
Shouldn't have done that, Chris.
Just back him. He was devious.
In the Tau's next move, they spent a period retreating from the power fist wielding lieutenant, and who can blame them? They also brought on their stealth suits, which in Chris's turn were promptly surrounded and destroyed.
Jesus Christ.
Problem for Chris though is he was still being thinned out at an alarming rate. The Tau obviously had an enormous amount of firepower and a lot of very commanding positions. Chris desperately needed his Deathwing Terminators to do a whole bunch of work when they arrived. Happily, due to a failure of Tau screening, the Terminators managed to land basically on this objective at the back here. It's a good place to cause some problems and pick up some points at the same time. The pressure was on for these boys to try and turn the tide. Elsewhere on the table, the Lieutenant and his tactical marines had charged the unpainted Devilfish. This is the one part of the table where Chris had managed to do quite a lot of damage, and he was hoping to capitalise on that momentum. The Terminators started strong by clearing out a whole bunch of Fire Warriors.
Damn, why didn't I keep that shield drone?
The rest of the Space Marine turn, though, was ineffectual. The Lieutenant and his squad couldn't make any damage stick against the Devilfish. The Tau turned to concentrate on the new arrived Terminators next turn. Deathwing weathered the fire admirably, but the Tau were manoeuvrable enough to stay out of harm's way, essentially for the rest of the game. That, coupled with their objectively superior firepower, and the Space Marines' already dwindled resources, meant that Chris could just not recapture the initiative. The Lieutenant simply could not withstand both the broadsides and the Devilfish in the north.
And that is it. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 26.
26.
45.
45.
With the game's scores tallied, the armies needed to face another challenge, another staple of the tournament scene, the painting competition. This is important because painting competitions are a standard part of tournament fare, and we need to know how well cheap quick armies can compete. We had Harry Parkhill from Entmoot, Benji from Benji's Hobbies, and Lockie from Zorpazorp. As well as each of the players' 4 armies, I'd also thrown my Eldar army into the mix, but hadn't told the judges which one is which. That way, it would act as a benchmark. Each army would be given a percentage score, and players would lose points for falling short of the benchmark, and gain points for exceeding it. First, a quick note on John's Devilfish. Call it weakness, but I genuinely felt bad for him. So when he asked me to paint it for him ahead of the painting competition, I reluctantly agreed. He'd already had a dispensation when I allowed an unpainted model in the gaming bit, so perhaps I was weak. In my defense, I did a thoroughly half-assed job, and John was first up for judging.
Okay, some Tau. Ooh.
Wow.
Like dirty white on a short time frame.
I like the shields.
Yeah, I think they might be 3D prints.
Some planning gone in here.
Yeah.
As you said, like dirty white on such a short time frame, I think these look excellent, and they've got so much like battle damage and stuff on them as well.
The markings are good.
Been done really effectively.
I really like the markings on the legs and the pads and all that sort of stuff. That is quite an achievement. They've even got tufts, and tufts give me points.
Okay, so if this is our front runner, then this has got to be like 80s or something.
Yeah.
I'd say high 80s personally.
Yeah.
Should
Well,
we
let's
give it an 85? I think the only thing that for me that's knocking it down is that the devilfish, but yeah, the rest.
Yeah, true. Yeah, some points off for the devilfish. I'm happy with 84.3. I think is probably better.
All right, that's 84.3. I think that's fair.
Then it was the turn of Chris's Dark Angels.
God, such a classic Dark Angels green. Hey, this is like that retro green.
There's a lot of them as well. So obviously for such a short space of time, that's a lot of models to paint.
They've done a cracking job on these Terminators. They look amazing.
The Terminators are definitely a step above the base troops.
Yes, I think that's fair to say that they maybe spent most of their time just doing the Terminators and very little time on the actual guys. They look a bit naff.
Oh, here we go. Some quality veterans.
As an army, I think it looks great, and as you say, if you don't look too closely at the Tactical Marines, I think that's a good looking army.
All right, if our tower 83.5, I feel like this is probably 60s. I'm gonna put forward 63.6.
63.6. I think you're being a bit mean. I'm going to go for 64.8. Should we go a nice round 65?
Yeah, I think 65.17 is perfect. That's
Thank you so much.
Next up was the Ringer, my beloved Baltan Eldar. I'm not sure I fooled the judges.
Edit that out.
No way.
Bilton.
No way have they done those thorns in 24 hours. That is absolutely ridiculous.
There could be transfers.
Unpaid for pro pack. This is cheating. I think this is cheating right here.
I think this might have been from Siege Studios. This one, isn't it?
Hold on, no.
Yeah,
no
these
way.
look good. These look really good.
This person spent more than £100 on this. This is ridiculous.
So I have a suspicion that this might be the Ringer army.
You reckon this is Alex's?
Yeah.
I mean, I know Alex has Build-10, but I can't remember. I haven't seen his Build-10 up close. Alex is hiding.
If you've got a day to paint an army, you're not putting those thorns and things on, are you? That looks incredible.
Clearly, Alex has just set this video up so that we can compliment his painted army.
I think so. I think that's the whole premise. Oh, this is just a with us. Yeah, that'd be like a 95 on our weird rating system.
94.99. How's that?
With that rudely high bar set, we were on to Hayden's Dark Angels.
A second Dark Angels army.
Oh, but there's more bikes this time. I like bikes.
Yeah. We've got much more of a Ravenwing flavour.
Oh, yeah.
And these are darker Dark Angels as well.
Oh, some really classic scouts. They saved the money on those guys, didn't they?
Those are some retro scout models and some retro scout model paint jobs.
Yeah. That's a Necron Gauss Flayer thing sticking out of the antenna of the gun. What the hell is that?
And the Ultramarine Banner Bearer in the Army of Dark Angels.
Very good.
These are pretty rough.
They're not bad. I mean, I think some of them are better than the other Dark Angels, but a lot of them are a lot worse.
Yeah. It's a lot of range here.
Mm-hmm. There's even a good bit of cat hair in that shot there. Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of detail lost here.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh God! Look at that. That guy's fallen over.
Help me, brother.
I like the grenade pack glued to the shoulder.
The insane posing reminds me of like my childhood Space Marines when I was like, I'm gonna make them look really custom, and then all their poses are just. I look back at them now and it's like, what's he even doing?
It's just pouches everywhere.
All the pouches all over the place.
The thing is, like, if you look at their arms, I don't even know how he'd like reach round to that pouch. Like, it's just completely inaccessible.
He's just sort of doing this sort of thing, trying to get his food out of his pouch.
But yeah, I think as you say, there's a bit of range in here. There's some that look really good, but then there's some that look.
Look, really I gotta be honest. Where are the ones that you guys are saying look really good? I haven't seen them.
No, there's the odd one there if you look closely. I wouldn't say really good, but
there's this big Terminator thing to the left here. That looks pretty good. That arm of it looks great.
Yeah, his left arm and knee. Whoa, they're killer.
Just first of all, like there's some random models in there, like the Ultramarines banner. So from a cohesive point of view, it kind of has to lose some points for that. 48.25.
Yeah. Okay.
Finally, it was the turn of Graham's Death Watch.
Death Watch.
There's some good tuft action. Love a bit of tuft.
Okay, the black armor is looking a little better than all of the other marine armor.
There's a generous helping of wash here that's definitely looking nice.
Yeah, definitely some like pretty rough, pretty quick highlights, but they're there. Unlike some of the other models.
You know, I really like the on the heads of those Space Marines. They've got the eyes glowing, and the actual sort of light is shining out a bit of their skulls, which is sort of an attempt at a light source object highlighting, or whatever the hell the phrase is. I can't remember.
Object source lighting.
That's the ticket.
Like Japanese flag vibe there on the banner.
Have they given up filming the painting that tank there? It looks very rushed at the end. Are they meant? Is that red meant to go all the way round, or is it how? I'm starting to wonder whether it is actually object source lighting now. I think it might just be blobbed
just the
on.
overspill.
Yeah, I think it's blobbed. You know what? I think the colour scheme's really cool though, and the tufts do a lot of heavy lifting here. A lot of heavy lifting.
So kind of the 69.69.
I thought I bloody knew that was what you were going to say.
Yes, 69.69. I think we can all get behind that one.
With the judging done, there was one final challenge. Every army would be put back on eBay with a £1 starting bid. The players would gain a point for every pound over their starting 100 they earned, and of course they would lose a point for every pound short they fell. The prize money would be whatever profit was left after I recouped my £400. And so, in a video call, a week after the event, we gathered for prize giving. This is an important test for cheapo 40k tournament armies because my understanding is meta chasers will be swapping out those forces every other week. Lows first. So I think there was a terrible miscarriage of justice here. Graham came in last. Yours sold for £33, which I think is an absolute travesty. That's like the price of just the Rhino itself. That makes a mockery of justice. And also I'm very angry because it means that I'm down £67.
I'm surprised.
From the off. Yeah, I am surprised.
Get the off somewhere else though.
Second to last, Hayden. Hayden, yours sold for £56. So a £44 loss. Second was Chris at £65. So didn't get over the threshold. Don't nod. I'm very angry and upset. Again, I think it's travesty. I think it deserved much more than that. So John, if you're sold for 86, if you're sold for 86 more, then you win. John sold for £183.98.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Wow.
So absolutely freaking smashed it. And he gets plus 83 points.
Oh my god.
Now, John, this is where
I'm surprised that somebody is going to like get these and all the bits will have fallen off.
I am worried about it. Well, they even sent me a message afterwards saying, please package them properly. It's like, I will. John, with the only positive score, finishes on plus 30.
Well, that one.
Plus 30 points. Like 9.5, whatever, but 86 plus 30.86.
No.
Well done, John.
Well done,
but
John.
we do have to have a quick chat because there's a few things you did, John. The first is that you snuck in 2 miniatures that you didn't actually paint over the weekend. Yeah, you would have got away with it if you hadn't admitted to it on video. The second is you bid on your own lot to the tune of £50. Now, I do think that's very cheeky. So I am going to minus that £50 from your score.
Oh, you dick!
Which puts you on. You've still won, and I do think you deserve the win, and I'm quite glad you won because I wanted some of my money back, and you're the only one that really sort of pulled the weight. But that does put you on minus 20, which means you still won.
The final scores to tabulate were the tuck-shop purchases, which did no one any favours, particularly John, but didn't change the final running order. John had won the coveted glass plaque. Graham wins the frankly heinous wooden spoon. So there it is. What have we learned here? Well, with only one army beating the orcs on the tabletop, no armies beating the Eldar in the painting competition, and only one army making a profit, the answer is yes, sometimes. With one day and £100, you can get 40k tournament ready and sustain a 40k hobby. As long as you are a serial cheating professional commission painter who is willing to feign illness to rope other people in to do the work for you. Basically, John completely and utterly shafted this experiment. What a jerk. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. You might not have learned anything, but I hope you enjoyed not learning it. Once again, the 2 prizes go to Gargoyle for his links for one-shotting the Squigoth, and to Jonathan DiPietro's Windrider jet bikes for valiantly charging down the Orc commandos and nearly, but not quite, turning the tides. Thank you so much, as always, of course, to all of my Patrons. The only reason we could afford to do this experiment at all is because of you. All Patrons get thanked in the videos, they get early access to the videos, they get the Patreon-exclusive blog, and they get the Discord server. And the higher the Patreon tier you are, the more likely you are to have miniatures assigned to you in each game, and so the more prizes you're going to win. You can also check out the Facebook group, which is less awful than it sounds, although I appreciate that, setting myself a very low bar. Finally, John and I have a podcast now called Cast It Into the Fire. Here's a snippet. I'm also a bit of a weirdo. I quite like picking super glue off my fingers. So,
So you're there kind of an evening,
You're
you
like,
just kind of like smear.
There you have it, with the podcast that puts the bro in potassium bromide. Anyway, all that's left is to say thank you very much indeed for watching.
I'm gonna die.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Very much so I'm gonna die.
So winning on 4s?